Running public comments. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We're now in open session. I'm going to call the meeting to order after closed session. Good evening and welcome to the regular open session meeting of Temecula Valley Unified School District of Education on Board of Education on July 18, 2023 at 6:50 p.m. The board has been in closed session since 5 o'clock. Attendance, we have the governing board, Mrs. Allison Barclay, Mr. Danny Gonzalez, Dr. Joseph Komorowski, Mr. Stephen Schwartz, Mrs. Jen Wiersma, secretary to the board, Dr. Kimberly Velez, interim superintendent, Ms. Nicole Lash. Can we turn that off, please? Thank you. Ms. Nicole Lash, assistant superintendent, business support services, Mr. Frank Arce, assistant superintendent, human resources development, Ms. Nicole Deas, interim assistant superintendent, educational support services. And finally, Mrs. Lene Anasebar, executive assistant to the superintendent. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you got headgear off or on, please take it off. Hand over the heart. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you. Oh. So we took no action in closed session. So now we're going to skip recognitions. We don't have that. Okay. Now we're on to public comments, and I will read this. Public comments are an important part of the board meeting, and they are given careful consideration by the board. Public comment is restricted to items listed on the meeting agenda or otherwise within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes for a maximum total time of 30 minutes, unless otherwise determined by the board. The board does not take any formal action on items during public comment or on any item that has not been placed on public agenda or published agenda in accordance with the Brown Act. Public comments provide members of the public with an opportunity to speak to the board. Accordingly, public comments are directed to the board only and not to the audience in attendance or to individual audience members. Hate speech, obscenity, or other conduct during public comment that does or is likely to disrupt the board meeting from proceeding is prohibited. And let me remind the audience, last session, somebody had a bit of hate speech toward a board member. And I'll just get you familiar real fast on my yellow card, red card. A yellow card is a warning, a red card, you're out. You got hate speech, it violates First Amendment right. You have a First Amendment right, but if you have hate speech and you direct it to a board member, you're out. You're out of the audience. If it's in a different language and I find out 15 minutes later you had hate speech in a different language, I'm going to give you a red card, you're out. Similarly, conduct by audience members that does or is likely to disrupt public comment or any other aspect of the board meeting for proceeding is prohibited. Finally, pursuant to Education Code 7054, the public comment process should not be used to show support or opposition to any ballot measure or candidate for election, including candidates for election to this board. That being said, I value your participation here, being an audience member. I don't want to have to clear the audience. Please don't make me do it. If we can't conduct business, I'm going to clear it. I got a trigger finger that almost went off during the last open session during the board workshop. We got to be able to hear the board members talk. This is our meeting as a board, not yours. Thank you for attending. Here we go. We have, what is it, 38? Okay, we have 41 comments in public, in this public session. How many do we have on the agenda items?
We have one for action item 2, one for action item 9.
Okay. So we'll have other comments dispersed through the other action items, but now I'll hand it over to the board. 41. What do you think? Okay, hear them all.
I would say hear them all as well. They've been out in the heat, and I know a lot of people have a lot to say, so that's where I'm at.
We got 2 hear them alls. At what time frame? 2 minutes apiece, 3 minutes apiece? What?
I would say hear them all at, well,
I say 3.
if we want to do 3, that's fine. But, you know, we can encourage, if you have had your opinion already voiced, you could say, I concur with someone else. You don't have to take your full 3 minutes. It's just a long night for everyone. We want to hear everyone, but that's an option.
Okay, we have consensus to hear them all, 3 minutes apiece. I agree with Mrs. Barclay. If you think your comment's going to be repeated by somebody else and somebody else wants to bow out, we're all for it to save time for the board. First speaker up.
Christy McClure, followed by Gia Ruida.